Gandhi was a worldwide known, famous leader. He led the Indians into their freedom and independence. But what were the reasons behind the British monopoly over India's salt productions? How did they do it? How has Gandhi gained support from other followers and officials? During the Salt March, what challenges did Gandhi have to face, and what were some of the consequences of his acts? And lastly, what were the effects of the Indian protests led by Gandhi, and how has it changed the Indian society? Mohandas Gandhi was born on October 2nd, 1869, in the British Indian Empire. He died in January 1948 by an assassination from shooting. Even though he died at an age of 78, he accomplished a lot in helping to make the world a better place. Gandhi led the Salt March, which began in 1930 and lasted for 24 days, in order to protest against the British rule over the Indian salt tax. But in order to do this, he needed help and support from others in order to complete this event. Mohandas Gandhi eventually contacted important government officials such as Jawaharlal Nehru, who became the first prime minister due to the Salt March, and Adolf Hitler, who was the Chancellor of Germany. Gandhi was supported by many people around the world. Even though his march began with 78 people, during the 24 days, Gandhi gained 80,000 followers, who eventually joined him in order to show their anger towards the British government. During the Salt March, Gandhi proclaimed, "Freedom is not worth having if it does not include the freedom to make mistakes." Mohandas Gandhi and 80,000 men were jailed during this march, which proves that Gandhi would rather make mistakes to gain his freedom rather than gain his freedom with risk.
In his quest to free India from the salt monopoly created by the British government, Gandhi faced many challenges and misfortunes. Even though Gandhi was standing up and doing great things for India, the British government didn't approve of their actions. At times, because of his passion to fight for Indian rights, even his own freedom was at stake. On May 5th, 12:45 a.m., he was arrested at Karadi near Dandi for violating the British salt law, and without a trial, he was imprisoned. He was released after the march to discuss terms with the Indian Viceroy, Iran. Even with Gandhi gone, the march continued, but the police came and started to beat non-violent protesters with sticks that had metal tips on them. The non-violent protesters didn't fight back, so they fell like bowling pins at the blows of the merciless police. The Great Salt March had a huge impact on India and the world today. It ultimately led to the independence of India. The British government was shaken by this march, and it made them recognize that their control of India depended on the consent of the Indians. The non-violent protests left the British confused whether or not to jail Gandhi again. One British police officer wrote in his memoir that he felt nausea every time they had to deal with the non-violent protests. Some people in the government would rather deal with violent opponents rather than non-violent opponents. The Salt March had also succeeded in drawing the attention of the world. Millions of people saw the newsreels showing the march. Time magazine declared Gandhi the Man of the Year, comparing his march to defy the British to the time when New Englanders once defied tea taxes. The march produced progress towards the complete self-rule for India, which was Gandhi's ultimate goal. This dream was made true on August 15th, 1947, when India was granted its freedom.
The British are the antagonists in this era. They prevented the Indians from creating or trading their own salt, so that their only source of salt was to buy it from the British. The British just wanted to gain wealth and power from the Indians living in poverty. The Indians were malnourished and infuriated that they had to pay taxes without even enough food to support their own diet. In order for the British to gain economic growth from the Indians, they made the tax collected from the Indians into salt, which was a rare and exclusive item to obtain. The British monopoly over India impacted the Indians critically. Population started to decrease. Nutrition of a normal man's diet began to decline. No one of the Indian society dared to speak up to the British officials except for Mohandas Gandhi.
The long and exhausting 24-day, 240-mile long march that went through many bumps in the road finally paid off when India received its independence through the protests of the Salt March.
This is the life of Mohandas Gandhi. The price of salt.